One of the things I see at this current moment in time is, I'm just going to apologize about the noise. I'm sort of trapped in the middle of a storm. It's very wet. There's a lot of wind. One of the things I see is our futures are being stolen from us. And this isn't just aimed at the younger generation. This is also aimed at an older generation who are still exploring avenues of their life. Because just by living, every year I hope that you explore a new avenue, whether you go visit a new country, whether you try new food, whether you read a new book, whether you visit a new place, whether you improve yourself as a person. But what I see is this level of fear-mongering which is unsettling. And people are losing hope, and people are giving up, and people are scared. Living in England right now, all media is about the collapse of England. And it's not just in England. It feels like, if you're English, it feels like it's just England what's falling apart. But it's also other countries as well. But let's just think about it a little, just for a minute. There hasn't been a point in history so far, and you can point out if you're wrong. There's been moments of peace, of course, and there's been moments where we slowly tumble along and get on with things, but there hasn't been a moment in history where the world isn't a messed up place. So what's happening right now, there is no difference to what's already been happening. It might just feel like it because we're living in this generation and we forget there's been generations before, there'll be generations after. We can quite selfishly just think the world and everything that's happened to us is about us. And quite selfishly we can blame the world for our own problems, what we're facing. But I understand the level of fear mongering because it's also stopped me from doing things. And when I look at the collapse of England, as they say, I'm somebody who kind of agrees with it and kind of doesn't. I think some parts have gotten worse and I think some parts have gotten better. I completely disagree with the narrative that everybody's been given, the reasons for the collapse. I think the reasons for the collapse, I'm not going to go into them, you'll know what they are if you live in England, or even if you're a viewer of English media, or even your own country, you can just parallel it to that. So the problems that they're citing already exist here. Is this camera getting a little blurry? Let's just have a little light. Has that made it worse? I don't know. The problems are here to stay. The problems what people are attacking, we can't do anything about. We have to now work how to solve them here. So a lot of people are throwing their toys out of the pram for something that's already happened and is going to happen, is going to keep happening. So that's one of the first interesting things. The second thing is the collapse of England, if you like, or the collapse of any country you're living in. I don't know your country, so you'll have to think about this, is usually because the system in place before has led us to this collapse. It's nothing to do with what's happening right now. It's sort of like, it's like rotten wood. The wood's been soaked over and over again every single year and it's rotten. I'm not going to get into it today, I might do a separate video, but there are so many occasions just living in England where occasions is the wrong word. There's so many elements what crop up what I consider to be the downfall of the country. I could make a half an hour long video. I don't think it's anything to do with the reasons what are cited. I think it really is to do with, they might have an effect on some sort of global crisis what's coming. But in England there's always been if you try and advance, you're pulled back down. and that can also go into British humour, but in a non-humoristic way. There's always been this sort of, I don't know if you've ever seen it, it kind of makes me laugh. There's these old books what exist in England where they literally tell you how to live your life. Things, how to sleep in bed, how to light a candle, how to close the window, what time you should sleep. And that sort of system's been in England for a very long time. Let's turn this brightness down a little bit. That's maybe too much. These things have existed in England, and this is what is actually contributing to the downfall. There is this regimented system in place what if you break it you're punished, and that's why you see so many people looking abroad. But people who are looking abroad have to also understand every single country has their own problems, so you shouldn't just look abroad to try and fix your problems. A lot of problems are also to do with our mentality and how we approach the world. But I see so many kids with their futures stolen, and it is sad, because if you look at my parents' generation, they could get a house for 70 grand. I'm looking at $250,000 for a decent house in a decent area. But if we look more into that, the houses what were built in England, a lot of them are quite ugly, and they sort of go into that morbid sort of style what we've built in England. And you know, all these compact houses, and even if you look at how other countries compared to us build factories, the factories look a lot more pleasant, but we seem to build these iron, these steel things, and I think that's all contributing to our health. We're just sort of now coming out of a massive drinking problem. I would say the generation above me really like to drink. The younger generation aren't doing that, and that has also affected many families and many dynamics. But there's this sense of being trapped in England, and it comes from the house, it comes from the environment, and that goes into the modern era now, where we're building the same houses on these business parks, surrounded by people where we're just sort of almost, these are your neighbours, they're a couple exactly like you. You've seen the meme videos. We're gonna watch the chase at 6 p.m. or whenever it is. We're gonna buy this car, we're gonna buy this flat screen, and it's all very mundane stuff, and we're all just very regimented fitting in, and that's always been quite a British thing, I feel. And that is one of the biggest contributions to why there feels like there is this sort of collapse taking place, because our quality of life isn't very pleasant, and we don't really have any individuality, and it's very hard. If you are an outsider, you are the nail that gets hammered in, and you have to fight very hard to try and get out, because obviously everybody's looking at you in their cookie cutter lives, and if they see you doing something a little bit different, they'll tear you down, or they'll make your life harder, or they'll report you to some authority or whatever it is. And we're all very angry at each other, and we're all clawing at each other. And people don't want to do things anymore. People don't want to be original. I hear people say, "Oh, I'd love to go live in the mountains," but all I hear is the parents go, "You won't be able to afford that, it's too expensive. Why do you want to live there? You're going to be cut off, you won't be able to visit the family." It's just, everything is just bad news after bad news after bad news. And then on top of that, there's a lot of, well, the world's ending, it's pointless, why should we do anything? It's much more comfortable to sit in our room and just read books. And what I'm saying is they're taking your future from your hands, because they're scared, and they fear, and they're fear mongering, and they don't want to take a risk. They're not strong enough to stand up, and they will then take your future from you. And yes, it sucks that we have to pay a lot for housing now, And yes, it sucks, food's so expensive, but this is just our time. It doesn't mean we can't not enjoy our lives and get on with things and build things and get out there and be original and try and build new communities and try and that little boy or girl inside you who has all these strong values, to keep them and to stand by them. And even if 50 people are horrible to you, still be nice, still smile at people, still be pleasant. That's what we need. And this collapse, what's going to happen is people are just going to keep being told this is collapsing, this is collapsing, this is collapsing, and we're going to get to the end of our life cycle, and we're going to realize nothing really bad happened. Bad things happened, of course, but nothing. I'm still here. Hopefully I'm still breathing, and I didn't do the things I did because of fear, and now I have regrets. And it's not just a selfish pursuit of I'm doing this to better myself. It betters the world. When people see people running or jogging or building new families and finding new material, it betters the world. Okay, have a good week. Christmas is coming. Enjoy your Christmases.